What's happening, guys? Good morning to you. It's Thursday, April 15th, 2021. This morning, we're going to be talking about having hard conversations and the benefits of having hard conversations. Let's get started.
It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right, guys, what's happening? Good morning to you. Sorry for the delay this morning. I am on the mend still. The good news is this morning is one of the first mornings that I woke up and I felt pretty normal this morning. So I think I'm in the home stretch of whatever it is that I had, and starting to feel better, starting to, have some mental clarity back. So that's a good thing. It's been a rough week and a half here for me. So I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me, and sorry for the 30-minute delay this morning. But this morning I wanted to talk about having hard conversations, and really, the benefit to having those hard conversations that most people don't realize, right? Most people look at hard conversations and say, they don't want to have them. They're very uncomfortable having them because they don't see the huge benefit on the other side of hard conversations. And so this morning, as always, I'm going to try to provide you with some perspective that can help you see those things from a different angle, right? Where you can start to see why it would be a huge benefit to you to have hard conversations and how everybody that's involved in those conversations can benefit from it. And so that's what we're going to dig into this morning. And I hope that this is beneficial for you guys. I hope that it gives you something to think about when it comes to maybe some of the conversations that you should have had already that you haven't had, that this conversation will spur something to happen in those relationships that you have in your life. And I promise you, if it does, everybody will grow from those conversations. So the first thing that I'm going to tell you is this: conflict is one of the healthiest things that you can have in your life. It's one of the healthiest things that you can have in your marriage, in your friendships, in your work relationships. Leaning into that conflict really helps you understand the other person better. It's going to help grow every single relationship that you have. So if you just sit back, if you're one of those people that just sits back and allows people to upset you or irritate you or do things that are, not okay, and you don't necessarily say anything to them, then you are extremely responsible for some of the things that are happening to you in your life. Now, if you are a person that is willing to embrace conflict, that is willing to speak from your heart and tell people how you feel and tell people the truth, then you're going to have a healthy relationship as long as that other person actually cares enough to lean into that conversation and have some conflict with you. As you have conflict, you start to understand the other person, right? One of the biggest mistakes that I see with conflict, and it's something that I have to remind myself of all the time, is that conflict is about not understanding to respond, not listening to respond, but listening to truly understand. And so when you are on, the receiving end of conflict, then you have to do a great job of listening, and you have to do a great job of showing the other person that you actually understand and that you heard them and that there's a resolution to whatever it is that you're talking about, that you see it, that you hear them, and you have to be able to express yourself, right? But it first starts with doing a great job of listening. And one of the things that I've been saying a lot recently, and it's put a lot of light bulbs off for people, I actually got this from Jay Duran, is sometimes the most valuable things that you can hear in a conversation are actually the things that are unsaid, right? Some of the most valuable things that happen in a conversation are the things that are unsaid. What are the things that people are leaning away from saying? Think about that. When somebody doesn't say something, when you're expecting or that somebody wants to say something and they don't say it, That is probably the most important piece of that conflict, is what is unsaid sometimes. So when you're having conflict, listen intently and listen for those things that maybe are unsaid, not just what the person is saying. The second thing on my list here, tell the truth, especially when it hurts. Tell the truth. Speak from your heart. Be respectful, but speak from your heart and speak passionately. When you feel passionately about something, you have to speak passionately about it, right? And sometimes you have to have conversations that are passionate in order to, get to a resolution that you're looking for. And so you have to tell the truth, and you have to tell people when they're doing things that are upsetting you. Now, this doesn't mean you tell every person every last detail of everything that bothers you about them, but you have to tell the truth. And it's really important. I see this all the time in business. I see it all the time with people that in their own lives, like, they want to vent to other people about another person, but they don't actually want to take the issue to the person that needs to hear it. And so telling the truth and having those hard conversations, especially when it hurts, especially when it's uncomfortable, is the way that you create conflict that leads to resolution. I want you to think about that. Are you creating conflict in your life, or are you just a person that tries to keep the peace all the time? If you are a person that tries to keep the peace all the time, you are not helping anybody. That's not helpful, right? You have to speak the truth. You have to tell people the truth. When someone's being a jerk, tell them they're being a jerk. Be respectful, but tell them they're being a jerk. When someone is doing something that's not okay, you have to tell them the truth, especially when it's uncomfortable. Remember, growth doesn't come from easy conversations. It comes from the difficult ones. Your personal growth, you will grow through the conflict that you present, and the other person will grow as a result of what you are telling them. Or they won't. That's a great sign too, right? Because if somebody doesn't want to grow, if they don't want to listen, and they don't want to be part of resolving some conflict that you have with them, then that puts them in a different bucket in your life, doesn't it? So you have to be able to embrace conflict. You have to be willing to, as Trisha just said, run to the conflict. And so when you run to the conflict, it actually shows how much you care. It doesn't show that you don't care. When you tell somebody the truth, it shows how much you care. If it really hurts, you should thank that person, because there's no question that it's a difficult conversation for them to have. So when you embrace the conflict, you're willing to lean into it, you're willing to tell somebody the truth, most likely they're going to walk away from that conversation, maybe not in that very moment, but eventually they're going to respect the fact that you were willing to bring that to their attention. You were willing to bring the conflict up and work through it with them. And an easy way to start a conversation that's very uncomfortable for you is to say, like, I know that this is going to create conflict between us, but I think it's that important for us to have this conversation, and I hope you can understand where I'm coming from. Kind of brings down the walls, right? It takes down the pressure of maybe what you might feel going into the conversation, and it makes it more comfortable for you to be able to have it. And the last thing I'm going to tell you guys is the only thing that's standing between you and a better version of every single thing in your life are those conversations that you're willing to have, the ones that you're willing to have with others and the ones that you're willing to have with yourself. And if you're not having conversations with yourself about the things that are going on in your life, meaning you're not sitting and thinking about things, you're not writing things down, you're not embracing the conflict with yourself to grow, then you are robbing yourself of your true potential. So remember that the only thing that's standing between you and a better version of everything you got, the version of your life that's in your mind that you dream of, is made up of the conversations that you have with yourself and with others between today and that point of when you arrive at that destination. And so it's important to have those conversations, to be comfortable enough to lean in and embrace the conflict. Because those that don't embrace conflict are very unhappy. Remember that. If you don't embrace the conflict with yourself, that you have, if you continue to tell yourself stories that aren't true, then you will never fully be happy with yourself. And what a shame that would be if you went through life telling yourself a story that isn't true, because it robs you of the potential that you have, the potential that God put in you to be great. You were put here to do something great with your life. You were not put here to do something average, to do something less than the potential that you were given. But that requires having hard conversations. It requires leaning into conflict. It requires having the conversations that other people don't want to have. Isn't it true when you look at the people that you really respect, the people who are truly successful that you look at, they are always willing to have those conversations. They're always willing to tell the truth. They're always willing to chase that better version of themselves by having tough conversations with themselves and with others. So if you want to be great, if you want to have a better version of yourself a year from now or a month from now or 6 months from now, there's only one difference there's only one thing you have to change, one difference to make. That is the conversations that you have with others and the conversations that you have with yourself. Embrace the conflict, guys. I promise you it will help you grow. I promise you it will deliver you a more full life, one that doesn't frustrate you nearly as much, one that has less emotions and more honest conversations, more just direct and honest conversations that lead to resolution. It will lead to you seeing things a lot clearer when you're able to listen to other people, like actually listen to understand, not to respond. And you're able to then respond to people and think about what you want to say and have a meaningful conversation, not one that's charged with emotion, that's irrational, that may not lead to a resolution of conflict, but rather more conflict, because you're speaking from a place of emotional. Think about it. If you could do these things, how much better would your life be? And go out there today. If you have something on your mind that you need to speak to someone about, remember, check your emotions and just have an honest conversation. Tell the truth, especially when it hurts. I hope this was helpful for you guys this morning. It's good to be back. It's good to be feeling better. And I will see you guys again tomorrow morning, same place, same time, right here on Morning Perspective. Love you guys.